Here is every Deadlock hero summarized and explained in 30 seconds, or maybe even less. Abrams is a high damage, high sustain, close range tank all about punching. His first ability, life steals enemies in front of you, stealing more life from heroes than other units. His second ability charges one or many enemies into a wall and stuns them. His third ability grants passive health regeneration and somewhat of a damage mitigation, and his ultimate lets him fly and slam into his target. Bebop yoinks. His third ability lets you hook enemies or teammates towards you. His first ability lets you knock friendlies or enemies back, and his second ability lets you attach bombs to anything, which you then can knock back or laser with your laser gun. His ultimate is a big laser gun with a ton of damage. Bebop also comes with sprint speed off rip, so you can gank enemy lanes and be even more annoying. Dynamo does a little bit of everything and deals a ton of damage. His first ability knocks up any enemies that he hits and deals a bit of damage. His second ability teleports himself or teammates while making them invulnerable and speeds up his damage per second for the entire clip. His third ability is an area of effect heal for himself and his teammates, and his ultimate is a big black hole that sucks in any enemies that are near him. Great Talon is old. He is so old that he still uses a bow and arrow in current day, as well as traps. His first ability makes him charge a shot and fire a projectile that deals a lot of damage. His second ability makes him float in the sky and shoot shotgun arrows, don't ask. His third ability is a trap that the enemies can see, but not really, that snares them if they step in it, and his fourth ability is a Spirit Owl missile strike that grants permanent spirit per kill. Haze is a sneaky, annoying, and kind of discount Reaper. Die, die, die. Her first ability is a sleep dart, which temporarily sleeps an enemy. They wake up if they take damage. Her second ability makes her go invisible as long as she's outside of detection range. Her third ability will passively add stacks on her targets that apply damage, and her ultimate makes her spin and deal a ton of damage while applying those same stacks at the same time. Infernus deals damage, he burns, and he stuns. His first ability throws a projectile that amplifies the fire damage from his kit. The second ability makes him run around, can be sped up, and leaves a trail of fire in his wake that burns anyone who steps on it. His third ability is a passive that applies stacks, which makes the target burn over time, and his ultimate takes a few seconds to tick down before it stuns any enemies within range. Ivy is a little golem that packs a surprising amount of damage. Her first ability throws a bunch of thorns that deal damage in an area over time. Her second ability lets you tether between an ally, which lets you both heal up, and her third ability turns her into a golem, making her invulnerable before she crashes down and deals damage to and stuns enemies, and her ultimate lets her fly all over the place, with her either bring in an ally with her or being able to drop a bomb onto the enemy. Kelvin is an annoying prick that both heals and slows the hell out of enemies. His first ability is an ice grenade that slows enemies and eventually heals allies. His second ability turns him into Frozone, letting him create an ice path and run around everywhere. His third ability is a freeze ray that's annoying as hell and turns enemies into a crawl, and his ultimate creates a safe space where Kelvin and any allies inside of it receive passive healing the entire time. McGinnis is the ideal split pusher and is allergic to playing the game. Her first ability lets her set up turrets that deal damage to any target within range. Her second ability lets her place a potion that heals up any nearby allies. Her third ability lets her place a massive wall that cuts off line of sight and stuns and damages enemies that are near it. And her ultimate lets her perform an artillery barrage over longer ranges. Mo and Krill are another tank heroes. Either way, their first ability deals damage to any nearby enemies while healing Mo up. The heal is more efficient against heroes. Their second ability makes Mo burrow underground, where they take drastically reduced damage and can pop up at any time to knock up any nearby enemies and deal some damage over time. Their third ability is Pocket Sand and disarms any enemies in front of them. Their fourth ability is a close range attack, which locks onto an enemy hero, holding them still and dealing damage over time. Paradox is a pretty cool assassin hero that can manipulate time. Her first ability places a grenade that slows movement and deals damage over time, with that same damage amplifying as time goes on if you stay inside of it. Her second ability creates a wall that absorbs all incoming enemy bullets and projectiles. Her third ability charges up the kinetic carbine, giving you a movement speed buff after it's charged. Your next shot will deal decent damage while applying a time stop to the target. If you hold your aim down sights while it's charged, it suspends you in the air. Her ultimate throws a projectile that when it hits an enemy, it swaps the place between her and them. Puggett is hard to catch and can deal crazy amounts of damage. His first ability sends out projectiles that slows enemies, deals damage, and every hit on an enemy hero gives you a buff that amplifies all of your your damage. Debuffs stack per hit, but only one per projectile. Hitting more heroes with the same shot won't give you more stacks. His second ability launches a cloak 4 that damages enemies, which Pocket can teleport to by any time by pressing the same button. His third ability lets him escape into a suitcase where he cannot take damage. Once the duration ends, Pocket deals damage to nearby enemies. It can be cancelled early. Pocket's yucky fourth ability applies a damage over time to all nearby targets that lasts for a really long time and hits really hard. It's like a poison, but the debuff cannot kill. It will leave them at 1 health if it gets them low enough. 7 is the perfect noob stomper and will destroy entire teams if left unchecked. His first ability shoots a lightning ball that deals damage over time to anything inside of it. The ball slows down whenever it touches an enemy target and keeps going until it hits a wall. His second ability applies a charge to one enemy target that stuns that target and nearby enemies once it hits after a few seconds. His third ability empowers his primary fire to deal additional damage to the target plus any other targets that might be near them. His fourth ability creates a storm cloud from 7 that deals significant damage to any enemies in its range and line of sight if left unchecked, and the radius can grow quite far. 7 is pretty weak initially, but very hard to kill in the late game once he gets his lifesteal. Shiv deals a lot of damage and comes with a finisher that resets on kills. Once Shiv gets his ultimate, he has a rage bar which affects all of his abilities, so it raises his outgoing damage and gives him a huge power spike. The rage bar fells by Shiv, dealing damage. His first ability throws a dagger which deals some damage on impact and then bleeds the enemy for additional damage. When enraged, it will ricochet to one nearby enemy. His second ability dashes forward, dealing damage to enemies in its path, and when the rage bar is full, Shiv deals another dashes damage just a moment after the first one. His third ability converts some of the incoming damage to deal damage to him over time instead of immediately, and his ultimate, other than unlocking the rage bar, will dash to and instantly kill and finish any enemies if they are under a certain health threshold. At its highest level, his ultimate cooldown will reset for every kill with the ultimate. Vindicta is a sniper assassin with an absent look and great feet. Her first ability throws a projectile that ties up any enemies inside of its range, and once it lands, keeps them stuck to the distance of the tether. Her second ability lets her take flight, where she can hover around and deal extra spirit damage as she shoots. Her third ability throws a crow that deals impact damage and then some bleed over time, and her ultimate turns Deadlock into a first-person shooter where she scopes in and deals significant damage per shot with her sniper rifle across any range. It takes a second to charge it up to deal maximum damage. It deals bonus damage to enemies under half health and makes them light up in the scope if they can be one-shot. Enemies last hit by the sniper reward extra souls. Viscous is a slimy support with crazy high play potential and just a lot of meme ability. His first ability throws a ball of goo that deals damage and leaves a puddle of goo behind, which slows the movement to any enemies that step on it. His second ability turns Viscous or as selected teammates into the cube, which purges debuffs, protects them from any new debuffs and damage, and increases their health regen to heal them up. His third ability sends a punch from any nearby surface, booping the target in either direction, depending on how close they are to another. His ultimate turns them into a goo ball that can roll around, it can double jump and bounce off of walls. Enemies hit by the ball get stunned and take damage from impact. Viscous takes very little damage while he is a ball. All things considered, Warden is a simple hero, all about hitting all the abilities at once and dealing an insane amount of damage while doing so. His first ability throws a flask that damages, slows, and reduces the weapon damage and stamina of any enemies that it hits. His second ability gives him bonus spirit power and movement speed. His third ability curses his target, forcing them to get out of the way or get immobilized for quite some time, and his ultimate, after a few seconds of a charge up, releases a pulse that damages nearby enemies while healing you based on the damage done at the time. When combined with all of his items at the same time, this can make Warden unstoppable. Rafe is a simple gangster throwing cards and dealing tons of damage with her huge magazine. Her first ability throws a card that always follows where you are aiming. Upon landing, it deals damage in a sphere surrounding the card. The card is charged as you deal damage. Her second ability lets her teleport towards a crosshair. Her third ability significantly raises her weapon fire rate and the fire rates of any nearby allies, and her ultimate lifts an enemy up into the air and stuns them for a short duration. They also take damage once they land. Enemies can't escape it, but if they get away or behind cover, then you won't be able to capitalize on it. Yamato is the perfect choice for any weeb out there. She's a close range assassin with some pretty powerful abilities. Her first ability lets her channel a powerful slash that after some time deals a ton of damage towards her target's over range. Her second ability throws a grappling hook onto an enemy target, reeling her in and then dealing damage to and then slowing the enemy once she arrives. Her third ability slashes at enemies in front of her, dealing damage to them and lowering their rate of fire. She gets healed per enemy hero hit, and her ultimate temporarily makes her invulnerable as she charges up, resets all of her cooldowns, and for the next few seconds, every ability is significantly faster. Your weapon gets infinite ammo, you take less damage and cannot be stunned or receive any other negative status effect, and best of all, during the ultimate, she cannot die. Lady Geist is the second boomer on the roster, and it's all about manipulating health. Her first ability consumes some of her health and throws a bomb that deals a decent chunk of damage. Her second ability creates a tether between her and her target, draining their health over time while healing you as long as they're within range and line of sight. Her third ability consumes some health to throw blood shards that deal a bit of damage and apply a status effect that make them take increased damage from you, and these shards can stack, amplifying the effect per stack. Her ultimate ability swaps the health levels between Lady Geist and her target, but has a very close activation range. And finally, Lash. Lash is an asshole. He's a high movement bruiser with a ton of carry potential. His first ability stomps the ground in front of him and deals damage. If he's airborne, he will slam into the ground. The higher up he is when activating the slam, the more damage it will do. His second ability pulls himself through the air towards a target, be it friend or foe. It also resets one stamina charge and your air jumps and your dashes. His third ability strikes enemies in a cone in front of him, stealing health from them, and activating his fourth ability lets you hover over heroes to target them one by one, or if they're close enough at the same time, for his ultimate, after which he pulls them in and throws them towards the crosshair. Enemies can be thrown in any direction, including behind him and into your own spawn. But yeah, hope this helps. We will be covering these heroes more in depth in a later video, so subscribe for that. Some did get a little bit longer than 30 seconds because there's just so much to cover and I did have to cut some details, but it is what it is. Real quick, I am soft launching my Patreon once again. If you guys are interested in subscriber-only Discord channels, shoutouts of your name on the screen whenever we talk about the Patreon, if you want access to my videos without actually having ads on them, or if you want early access to scripts or other types of research that I'm working on for videos, or if you just want to support the channel additionally, you can always pledge $5 on Patreon. I'll be linking that in the description and the comments. Sorry about the clickbait. Anyway, subscribe. See y'all next time. Peace out.